Welcome to The Explainer. We spend a huge chunk of our lives on autopilot, right? Well, today, we're going to crack open the black box and look at the hidden machinery inside our brains that's actually running the show. We're talking about habits, those invisible scripts that dictate, well, just about everything from our morning coffee to our late night scrolling. So let's get right into it.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever driven to work, or maybe just home, and you pull into the driveway, and you suddenly realize you have basically zero memory of the journey? Like you can't remember the turns, the traffic lights, nothing? That right there, that's your brain on autopilot.
And here's the really wild part, that autopilot mode. It's not a bug, it's not a glitch in the system, it's a feature. Seriously, it's an incredible evolutionary adaptation that helps our brains save its most valuable resource, energy, or what we call conscious attention.
So what is a habit, really? Well, at its core, it's just your brain's ultimate efficiency hack. Think about it. It takes something that's actually pretty complicated, like brushing your teeth or even just tying your shoes, and it squishes it down into this single automatic routine that you can just do without even thinking. Okay, so how does the brain actually build this super efficient system? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but incredibly powerful three-step pattern that neuroscientists have figured out. It's this little loop that's running in the background of our lives pretty much all the time. And they call it the habit loop. It goes like this. First, there's a cue. That's the trigger that tells your brain, hey, time to go into automatic mode. That cue then launches the routine. That's the action, the habit itself. And then finally, you get a reward. The reward is what tells your brain, oh yeah, that was good. Let's remember this whole loop for next time. But, what makes this loop so powerful, so sticky, so hard to break sometimes? The answer is all about the fuel. There's a specific chemical that powers this whole engine. And that chemical is dopamine. Now, here's the part that is absolutely crucial to understand. For a long time, we thought dopamine was the pleasure chemical, right? You get the reward, you get the dopamine. But that's not the whole story. The big revelation from neuroscience is that dopamine actually spikes in anticipation of the reward. It's the craving, not just the getting, that drives us. That feeling of I want it, that's dopamine talking. And that's what makes the loop so incredibly hard to resist. So, okay, we've got the fuel, dopamine, powering the loop. But now let's zoom in on the brain's actual architecture. Let's look at the wiring to see exactly how a conscious, effortful choice, slowly, piece by piece, becomes a totally unconscious, automatic habit. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine a new project at a company. Right at the start, the CEO is all over it, right? Making every single key decision. But once the whole process is figured out and perfected, what happens? It gets handed off to the factory floor to be run automatically, day in and day out. Well, that's exactly what's happening in your brain. The CEO is your prefrontal cortex. That's the part that handles all the heavy lifting, the conscious decision-making. When you're learning something new, it's working overtime. But as you do it again and again, control gets shifted over to the factory floor, the basal ganglia. And this part of your brain is an absolute master at just encoding and running those routines automatically. And the best part? It uses way, way less mental energy. And this amazing handoff, this whole process, is possible because of something called neuroplasticity. It's a fancy word, but it just means your brain isn't set in stone. It's constantly rewiring itself based on what you do. Every single time you repeat a behavior, you are physically, and I mean physically, strengthening the neural connections that make that habit possible. It's like building a muscle in your brain. Let's stick with that idea. Think of those neural connections like pathways through a forest. The first time you do something new, it's like bushwhacking a brand new trail. It's tough, it takes a lot of effort. But every time you walk that path again, it gets a little clearer, a little wider, a little easier to walk. After a while, it's not a trail anymore. It's a superhighway. And that's exactly what the corticostriatal pathway is. It's the superhighway for your habits. Okay, this is all super fascinating, right? Understanding how these habits get built is one thing. But now we get to the big question, the one we all want to know. What happens when these habits aren't good for us anymore? How in the world do you change the wiring once it's set? So if the basal ganglia is down on the factory floor just running the program on autopilot, is there a way to get the CEO, our conscious mind, to step back in? Can we actually interrupt the program and make a different choice? Well, the answer is a definite yes. And it turns out neuroscientists have found the exact spot in the brain that does this.
It's like a big red override switch that lets us break out of our automatic routines and get back into the driver's seat. And this critical area has a name, the orbital frontal cortex, or the OFC. There was this incredible study from the NIH that shows this in action perfectly. They looked at mice, and when the researchers activated the OFC in their brains, the mice could break their old habits and start acting with purpose, toward a new goal. But, and this is the amazing part, when they turned off the OFC, the mice were just stuck. They were completely locked into their old routines, even when it didn't make sense anymore. So what does that tell us? The OFC is our brain's built-in key for changing our minds. All right, so this science isn't just a cool biology lesson, it's way more than that. It completely changes how we can look at ourselves. It's like being handed the actual blueprint for how personal change works. And this leads to, I think, the most powerful idea of all. For so long, we've treated bad habits like they're some kind of moral failing, right? Like it's about willpower or being a good person. But it's not. Habits are just neurological feedback systems. That's it. And once you really get that, you can stop beating yourself up. You can start working with your brain's wiring instead of fighting a battle against it. You know, that old saying from Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do? It turns out that's not just some nice philosophy. It is a profound, literal neurological truth. The things you do over and over again aren't just things you do. They are actively sculpting your brain. They're building the physical architecture of the person you are today and the person you're gonna be tomorrow. So with this knowledge, you're not a passenger anymore. You're not just stuck on autopilot. You now have the schematics. You have the tools to be the architect of your own routines, your own behaviors, and yeah, ultimately your own life. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?